Hello and welcome to Old Ashiapin, Wisconsin. My name is Laura Ingersoll and I'm the Director of Marketing for the Wisconsin Historical Society. And I am just so excited to welcome you here today to Old Ashiapin at the site of Whit Nable's Tavern to tell you a little bit about a really special project for the Wisconsin Historical Society. So Whit Nable's Tavern here in Old Ashiapin, which is in Dodge County, was opened in 1906 and ran all the way till 1987 when it closed its doors. And when it was open, it was a vibrant, awesome part of this community. And while maybe its doors have been closed for a few years now, it is about to get a second life. Because this building you see behind me, we are going to take it apart into 3 different parts, put them on trailers, and haul them down the road 27 miles to its new home at Old World, Wisconsin. Old World, Wisconsin is an eagle, and next year we're going to be opening an immersive historic brewing experience, and Whit Nable's Tavern is going to be a really important part of that. So you can see here today, we are part of an active construction site. We have hard hats, we have cranes, we have buildings coming apart, and more importantly, we have some experts to tell you all about the project. So thanks for joining us, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dan Fries. Dan is the director of Old World, Wisconsin, and first I'd like to start, tell us a little bit about Old World. What is it, and why is it so special?
Hi, Laura. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this a great day to be here?
It's so exciting.
So yeah, Old World, Wisconsin is administered by the Wisconsin Historical Society. It's a 600-acre outdoor history attraction that immerses guests in the stories of those that came before us, those that came to call Wisconsin home in the past. And one of the stories that we have not told before is the story of beer brewing and the role that beer as a beverage played in the history and culture of Wisconsin.
That's great. So this brewing experience, it's scheduled to open next year, and we got some construction noise, so I hope you can hear me. But the brewing experience is scheduled to open next year. And Dan, tell the viewers a little bit, what is that going to be like? What are they going to be able to see and do, and maybe more importantly, taste?
Yeah, well, what we see behind us is just one part of the total experience. There's going to be a section that's going to focus on the ingredients that are used in making beer, barley, hops, other products that were grown on farms in Wisconsin that ultimately became beer. We're going to have a brew house, which is the part that will be opening next year, that will allow guests to actually see demonstrations of brewing, historic brewing, ethnically influenced brewing. We're also going to be doing workshops, so people that may be interested in learning how to brew themselves can actually come and learn how to brew beer in that location. And then we're going to have the Whit Nable Tavern, which will be a 1930s immersive experience where you'll be able to step inside a tavern as it would have appeared in rural Wisconsin in the 1930s. And then last but not least, we're going to have a great beer garden, just a place where folks that are visiting Old World, Wisconsin can sit back and relax and enjoy an afternoon at one of our premier historic attractions in Wisconsin.
That sounds so great. So Old World, Wisconsin already has so many great exhibits. So can you talk a little bit about why it was important to invest in this new experience?
Yeah, the idea of telling the story of beer and brewing and tavern culture really goes back to the very beginnings of the planning of Old World, Wisconsin back in the 1960s. But it's just taken us a while to find the right tavern and the right ingredients to be able to pull it all together. So as I mentioned at the beginning, beer and brewing, the selling of beer, the consumption of beer, this is all a significant part of Wisconsin history and culture, and something that we haven't told before. So we're excited to finally be able to remedy that and introduce it to our guests beginning next year.
I'm excited too. So Dan, you're so close to the project. You live and breathe this work every day. What are you most looking forward to when this opens up?
It is an exciting project, but I have to say the thing I'm most excited about is the building behind us. Just being able to recreate a completely immersive 1930s environment where guests will be able to step into a tavern, they'll be able to hear music of the era playing on the radio back behind the bar. There may be a phone that rings on the wall that they'll be able to pick up and answer. But just that sense of actually being back in time, back during the 1930s, during that period between the end of Prohibition and the beginning of World War II, just to experience what life was like in Wisconsin at that time.
That does sound really fun, and I know I'm excited too. So that's going to open next year, at least a part of it will. But Old World Wisconsin is getting ready to open its doors for this year, for this season. So what are guests going to be able to experience this year, and will they get a glimpse of the construction happening?
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting ready to open our doors. We're excited to be able to do that. Things will be different this year. Our first experience that we're offering is actually a drive-through experience for guests that maybe aren't quite ready to get out and mingle. They can actually drive through the site and stay in their vehicle and experience Old World Wisconsin that way. So that's Memorial Day weekend. And then beginning in the middle of June, we'll be opening the site 4 days a week for self-exploration, so that guests can come explore the site, go in some of the buildings, interact with our costume staff, interact with our heritage breed animals, explore our heirloom gardens, all the things that people love about Old World Wisconsin. We're glad to be able to bring back this year. But as you mentioned, that this construction is going to be going on at the same time, so guests will be able to see the construction of the brew house. That'll be finishing up this summer, and then they'll be able to see the restoration of the tavern going on.
That's great. Well, I know I'm excited to get back out there this season and see some of those baby animals and see some of this new exciting work happening. So thank you, Dan, so much. Well, now we're going to hand it over to our second guest today. And today with us we also have Jim Drager, and Jim is a historic preservation expert. And he also happens to be the author of a couple books. One is titled Bottoms Up, A Toast to Wisconsin's Historic Bars and Breweries. I knew I might stumble on that one. So really, who better to talk a little bit about the preservation of this building? So as we've mentioned, Whit Nable's Tavern opened in 1906. It was open until 1987. And when the tavern is moved to Old World, Wisconsin, 27 miles down the road, it's going to be restored to its 1930s experience. So Jim, tell us a little bit about bars and taverns from that 1930s era.
Great to see you, Laura.
Great to see you.
You know I love bars and historic taverns, and I've spent a lot of time in them all around Wisconsin when I was doing research for the book. And I got to tell you, when I walked in this place for the first time, I picked my jaw off the floor, because it's really a special place. It's amazingly intact, and it tells a great story. In 1906, when this tavern was built, 90% of all beer that was purchased in a tavern.
Wow.
Because they had barely begun to bottle beer. Beer was not canned yet. So if you want to get beer, you went to a tavern. You know, just like today, when people go get a growler of beer at their favorite microbrewery or at a craft beer tavern, they did the same thing at the turn of the century. And so places like this are really important to the broader community, as just the source of so much joy.
That's true. So why were taverns like this built in the first place?
Well, they were built, taverns served a lot of different purposes. They were community centers. They were places where people met their neighbors and talked to them. They were gathering places. They were places where people found jobs or helped out the neighbors around them, or just plain had an escape from a life on the farm. This was a rural tavern out in the countryside, and it gave people a second place to go other than their own home. And we all know how important that is in the pandemic. We've been reacquainted with that, right?
That's certainly true. I think we're all learning a little bit about what that was like back then.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was really important to the social and cultural life in Wisconsin.
Yeah, very much so. It's part of our identity. In the book, I posit that that Wisconsin is really a unique place because of the tavern culture. When people come from other states to Wisconsin, they often remark on how many taverns there are in Wisconsin, and there are more here. And I think there are a lot of reasons that I explore in the book, but taverns are really an important part of the social life and the culture of people in communities large and small.
Yeah, Absolutely. So let's shift to historic preservation just for a minute here.
Yeah.
So Whit Naples is just beautifully intact, as you mentioned already.
Yeah.
So what elements of this tavern are being preserved, and why are you so excited about
Well, I think one of the most remarkable things to me when I came into this building for the first time was that it has its entire original interior. It has the bar set, which is the front bar where you stand, and the back bar where the liquor bottles sit, and the ice box over in the corner, and all of that was still in there. All the wainscoting on the walls, the wood ceilings. Its dance floor is completely original on the second floor, and I can't tell you how rare that is. You know, I visited hundreds and hundreds of taverns in Wisconsin, and when Old World was looking for a place, they came to talk to me to see if I had any suggestions, and there just aren't very many other ones. You know, I would love if people listening to this in the comments would tell us about places that they know about in Wisconsin, because these things are rare and they're unusual and they're really vanishing. So I think this was a great opportunity to save this building that says so much, as Dan was saying before, about the history of Wisconsin as an agricultural state, and as a beer producing state.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that sounds like a challenge for you. Let's find out if you know about a tavern that Jim has never heard of before. So,
I would love to know that.
with that, we are going to wrap it up, but I want to thank both Jim and Dan, who's of course off camera now, for joining us today. And thank you for Findorf for their absolutely careful construction and really taking care of this beautiful tavern to get it safely over to Old World, Wisconsin. And I want to say thank you to the Whit Naples family, who I know is watching and are just really excited to see their family heirloom be moved over to be repurposed and gain that second life. So make sure you follow along with us. We're actually going to be doing a couple more Facebook Lives at major milestones during this tavern's journey. So follow Wisconsin Historical Society on Facebook so that you can learn all about what we're going to be doing out at the site. And remember, that brewing experience is going to be opening next year in 2022, so make sure you follow along. But lastly, I'll just say, don't forget, Old World is opening for the season in just a couple of weeks, so visit us online at oldworldwisconsin.org to check out what's happening out on site this year. And thank you so much for tuning in with us today.